Hi everyone! Today we're going to be making this very simple yoga mat backpack. And this yoga mat backpack cinches at the top to make sure that your yoga mat can't fall out, and it should be wide enough for most yoga mats. And check the description for the pattern as well as a list of materials to make this project. And we're going to begin with a magic circle, so take your tail and drape it over your working yarn and then pinch that intersection. Yarn over and pull through your loop, and we're going to separate our loop out like this. We're going to chain 1 and then place 12 double crochets back inside of our magic circle. And make sure you're working in your loop as well as over your little tail while you're placing these double crochets. And once you have your 12 double crochets in place, go ahead and pull on your tail to tighten the gap in your magic circle. And from here, we're going to be working in the gaps between our stitches rather than the top portion of our stitch. So we're going to start right here in the gap between our first and second double crochet, and we're just going to place 2 double crochets there. And you do have the option of working over your tail if you would like to by just lining it up with your stitches and working right over it like it is part of your stitch. Before we continue working our pattern, go back and mark your first double crochet stitch with any stitch marker that you have. And this doesn't have to be with a traditional stitch marker. You can also use a safety pin or a scrap piece of yarn. Once you have that first stitch marked, then we're going to repeat that pattern, working in each of our gaps around our row, placing 2 double crochets in each of our gaps between our stitches. And your row ends when you make it back to your stitch marker. So you should have a total of 24 double crochets when you make it to that point. And make sure you work your last 2 stitches between your last and first double crochet right here where your stitch marker is. And at the end of your row, you can remove your stitch marker. From here, we're still going to be working in the gaps between our stitches, but the pattern for this row is to place 1 double crochet in our first gap, and then 2 double crochets in our second gap. And we're just going to alternate between 1 and 2 double crochets going around our row. And don't forget to mark that first stitch of your row. And when you get to the end of your row, you should have a total of 36 double crochets. And once you make it to the end of your row, you can remove your stitch marker and you won't need it anymore. From here, we're going to place 1 double crochet in each of the gaps between our stitches. And this is going to be a pattern that we're going to repeat for a total of 22 rows. And each of those rows should have a total of 36 double crochets. And once you have your 22 rows, it should look something like this. From here, working right off our last double crochet, we're just going to add about 100 chains. So once you have your chain rope to your desired length, go ahead and pull your loop out somewhat long, and I want you to leave a tail of about a foot. Next, I want you to take your chain rope, starting right here in the stitch where you left off, and we are going to weave this chain rope in and out of every 2 stitches in our top row up here. So you don't want to work in every stitch, but every 2 stitches is about right. So now once you're done weaving this around your top portion of your yoga mat bag, if you pull on this chain rope, it should tighten down and cinch up the top, and you should be able to pull it out fairly simply to put your yoga mat in. So from here, you want to allow your chain rope to run down your yoga mat bag, and you might have some additional chains here that you need to remove. This really just depends on how tight you want your yoga strap. If you're going to be wearing it across your body, then you might want to keep it kind of long. If you're going to be wearing it over one shoulder, then you want this to be a lot shorter. So this is entirely up to you, and you can find a little trial and error with this. I like to attach my chain rope to the bottom of my bag, so I'm just going to be working in my 4th row from my center here. And what I'm going to do is just simply insert my crochet hook around 2 of the stems that form 2 of my double crochets. I'm just going to yarn over and pull through all the loops on my crochet hook for a simple slip stitch. And from here, we're going to tie off our yarn. And you can cut off your excess tail and then hide your tail on the inside of your yoga mat bag. And I recommend before you do all of that, go ahead and just slide your yoga mat in your bag and test the length of your handle. And you may need to add or remove some chains here to make this more comfortable. And I went ahead and secured my tails by drawing them to the inside of my mat bag and tying them together a few times. And I also hid my tails on the inside here. Don't forget to check the links in the description for the other crochet patterns and tutorials in this gift bundle series. Thank you so much for working with me, and I hope you have a wonderful, awesome day.